appreciate each and every one of you that are coming this way tonight. I know everybody has a busy schedule, but this is an effort that's very worthwhile. Before I go any farther with this, I'd like to recognize the other elected officials here. If you raise your hand, I know we have Steve Hooker right here. We had you, sir. I'm Bob Crabtree. Bob Crabtree here, Bob. And also we had Ann. Is Ann here? Jan.
Jim Lee.
Okay, all right. Any other elected officials? All right, and Tim. Man, I'll tell you what. How many times does that happen? I keep doing. I'm sorry. This is Tim from Fontana, Town. City. But it's good. Let me go ahead and say this. I've got 5 minutes to cover 25 years back and 25 years forward. I just told everybody. But I want you to know that, I've been around this territory, and some of you have been here all your lives. But I've been back here since since 1972. My dad was in the military, and we came back. And I remember going to Cullowhee in September when I was going to go and start my sophomore year at Cullowhee, and there was only one business on the main drag that ran right down through there. And that was a Kentucky Fried Chicken right there in the corner, remember? Any of y'all remember that? And that, as they say here, that were it. And that was it. But you go now and you see the expansion of things of business and retail that are going on there. Also with the respect to transportation, the expansion of 74 and those other issues that run through our region. And I know that one of the things that's been very difficult for me, I represent Graham County at every turn that I possibly can. I love the county, but this is a regional project. And I have trained myself to understand that. And as I look back, and I would see that a lot of things happen naturally. I was talking to Mr. Tennell a few minutes ago about how they determined to build highways in the mountains. Any of y'all know how that's done? Reuben? You find the best cow hill that you can find.
Follow the buffalo trail.
That's exactly right. Follow the buffalo trail. That's a lot of planning, isn't it? But the point of it is, when you have such an environment as that, then the natural flow of things would be the best way to go. And in that, we're living in times that are changing. Our population growth has happened. It may not be a great big monster of the thing, but it is happening. And in that, we have an opportunity now, at this juncture, with 25 years back, and we have 25 years before us, we have to think in that mindset. And that's been a real challenge for me. But the thing of it is, I can see it. How many of you have driven through Haywood County? How many of you have driven through Jackson County? How many of you have gone through Swain, Gray, Clay, Cherokee? It is, all of us have, haven't we?
Yeah.
And we know the history of this place from the time that we were able to understand and recognize the terrain, to know the businesses. I can remember a day, you better remember where the gas station was. I'm not kidding you, that's the truth. You better remember where the gas station is. You better remember how much gas you've got here and there. But that's something that every one of us realizes. But at this point right here, this team, and we've had this opportunity, and I want to say this is probably going to be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You've heard this. This is probably not going to happen again in our lifetime. Anybody sitting in this room, where we have this opportunity, this chance to be able to take a photograph and look at ourselves. And with that, I find it a challenge, to look at it from a regional basis. And I want you to know, the people of Graham County have afforded me the opportunity to be with other leaders and representatives of those counties in the far west. And I want you to know there's not a finer group of leaders anywhere that I've met. And that's not to discount a lot of good folks down east. But in the west, we're able to work together. In the west, we're able to work together on plans together. And I don't know if it was Johnny. Johnny, if I peg this on you, I apologize. If not, something about a boat. We're all on this boat together. It's all fine and good, you're all on the boat together. But what happens if the hole in the boat is in your end of it? You heard that? It becomes everybody's problem, is it not? And I don't want to look at that in a negative sense, but we need to understand there's a lot for us to do to be able to make improvement and to plan what happens for the next 25 years. Now, this is one of a series of meetings going to take place in our sister communities here in the West. And you need to take very seriously about that and to look about what you say is going to make a difference. Because I'm the one that is resigned to the fact that when we have a plan in place and there's a scenario and there's that we have, that Graham County will follow. It's not just a governmental issue. It's a person issue. We have to understand that we have a great responsibility in setting what is out ahead of us. And one of the examples that I use, and I'm going to use about 5 minutes, one of the examples that I use quite often is the issue of looking at a painting or a tapestry. Any of y'all ever seen a great tapestry? Any of you have one of those great big wall hanging things? And I had the ability to do that at the Fitzwig in Cambridge. As a matter of fact, I had an opportunity to be in England at the time and saw these beautiful paintings. But a lot of times, what you can do is get too close to the painting. I get right up there on top of it, and I look in the bottom right-hand corner. What have I got to look at? The bottom right-hand corner. And I know this sounds crazy, but it's really helped me in life. You have to step back. You have to take a step back and to look at the total tapestry, to look at the total piece of work. It doesn't discount that part. If I were to look at it, there's my part. But the thing of it is, it's a part of something even better. And we do need to find that. I know it sounds hokey, and it's going to get hokier before I get finished. But we really do need to have this dedication in making those decisions. There are people here in this county who have had a literal fever of wanting to make improvement here. And you're sitting here, a lot of you. And in that, you've made the avenues and the ways. And yes, there are issues. And yes, there are things that might want to just guide you to that bottom right-hand corner. But I would want to stress, and I'm going to do this myself, is to stress to look at the total picture. And I'm telling you, we're in a region where we want to step back together and to look at the whole region. So that's the challenge. And I'll tell you what, this team that's worked on this has worked very, very hard. All right, here comes the hokiest part. Any of you all familiar with the Mendocino County line? Willie Nelson? Are you really? Leanne Womack? I'd love to sing it for you. But there's a part in there, it's her part, Leanne Womack's part, it says, I orchestrated paradise and couldn't get you to stay. Orchestrating paradise. I wanted to write her a letter. Honey, you can't do that. But what we can do is to make the best effort to orchestrate, to put things in a place and in a plan that's going to last longer than it's finished, and be able to follow that through. So with that, I want to say again, I appreciate every one of you. You get spread thin, and I've not been to all the meetings. I've been to all of them that I can. But there's a concerted effort on the part, I know, of government, and I know that we've had business representatives from our region that are coming around the table to look at the things for the region. Now, Graham County, not discounting that at all. We've got a lot of other work to do. But in this, we need to start with this regional vision, and that'll help us go on our way. Again, welcome to all of you, and they're going to let me sit at the table this time. They wouldn't let me sit here in September. I don't know if it was a political thing or what. But I do hope that we can have a productive time. Johnny, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Edwards. Thanks to everybody for being here. Couldn't have hoped for a better introduction. That's exactly why we're here, and we're calling it Opt-in, the Opportunity Initiative, to emphasize just that. It's about working together, identifying opportunities as a region, not about top-down solutions, but about bottom-up solutions and what we can do together to move the vision forward. Let me introduce a few members of our team who are here. We have Jim Fox from UNC Asheville, who's been helping us with a lot of the scenarios. Aaron Arnett from Arnett Mulgrew. Have Bill Tennell, who's with me, Stacy Guffey, Charlie Scott, got a lot of folks here tonight. Ben Brown, Wade Walker, and Gianni Longo. And my name is Woody Giles. I'm with TSW, with the firm that's coordinating this effort, and we're glad to be here. So I wanted to just give a quick overview. I know many of you have been involved when we're at our first meeting, but of sort of where we are in the opt-in process. We started doing a lot of research, just understanding the basic facts and what's going on in the region, and then we spent a lot of time doing interviews with many of you in the room, a lot of small group meetings, focus groups, just learning what's important to people, what's going on, what are your priorities for the future. Took those and put them into a draft vision framework that we presented here at our workshop in September. By show of hands, how many people were here at that workshop in September? A lot of folks. Great. Thanks for coming back. I guess we're doing something right if you came back. So we had that first round of workshops, and we've been working on the goals that you saw tonight and the scenarios that we'll talk about tonight. We're moving toward, based on the input we get tonight, toward a preferred scenario and a draft regional vision, which will come back for a third set of community workshops in the spring to get your final input on that. So that's sort of where we're going. We're going to try and have all the vision wrapped up by May, and we're taking time to implement the vision. So why are we here tonight? We're here to talk about the set of goals that you already looked at when you came in that reflect what we heard at the first set of workshops. And we're here to talk about the regional planning scenarios. There are 3 of those. They're all based on the ideas that we heard at the first round of workshops. And we distilled everything into those 9 goals and 3 scenarios. What that's going to look like on the agenda, we'll start out talking about the scenarios. Gianni's going to walk us through exactly what are these scenarios and that series of indicators so we can talk about what's good and bad about each scenario. And we'll have a lot of time to review them at the table and discuss that. I'll have a chance to report back what we discussed at the table. And then we're going to talk about some key trade-off questions. Based on these future scenarios, what are the trade-offs, what are the decisions, the pros and cons that we have to decide between? So the 9 goals, Gianni's going to talk us through them, but I just wanted to emphasize that this came out of, I guess this is from Grand County, Grand County. So some of you are in that picture. So we had a lot of discussion at that meeting, and we had the same workshop at all the counties in the region, and a separate workshop for the Eastern Band, and heard a lot of things. We got about 1,000 comments at all of those workshops, a lot of things, a lot of different opinions about the region. But really, they all centered around themes, and we tried to condense them into these major themes of what's really important, and then down even more into 9 goals. What are the key goals for the region? So all of these are available on the website, optinswnc.org, which is at the bottom of your handout that you got when you came in. So if you want to review all the comments in detail, see everything that people said, and read more about the themes, it's all up there. So the goals are up on the boards tonight. I hope everyone got a chance to put your dots out there. I should emphasize these are provisional goals based on what we think we heard at the first set. So if you have any comments, you'll have a chance tonight to share if there's a goal that we missed or something that we need to tweak. We hope you do that. They're all draft goals. So with that, I will turn things over to Gianni to walk us through the 3 planning scenarios.
Sure.
Thanks.
Good evening. Good evening. So, there's really 2 parts after we finish this presentation. And this presentation might end up being a little longer than the last time when we presented things, but because we have so much more material to present. But the most important thing after the presentation, and which is why I was losing my voice trying to get everybody to sit close by, is that we're going to have a discussion. We're going to have a discussion in 2 steps. First, at the small tables, about the scenarios, about the, what we like and what we don't like about them. And then, I think we can hear almost from everyone. I would like to hear your feedback. I mean, you're going to spend some time talking about those scenarios. I'd like to hear what you think about it. And we will record that because everything in this process is based on what you tell us, together with technical analysis. So you have a very powerful group of people in this room that are the top experts in transportation, the environment, in modeling, and all these areas. So we need to combine what you tell us with that so that we can have a vision that not only what did you say? Prepare for paradise?
Yeah, orchestrated.
Right. Not only that, but also be implementable, which is really, has to be real, has to make sense. And things make sense in regional vision in 2 ways. It makes sense to you, the region, and it makes sense to what we understand that are the things that work and that are work in other communities. So we'll take that. Then we start talking about the 3 scenarios. Scenarios are not plans, right? We're not there yet. What we did was we got all the ideas that you gave us, we created those goals, and we said, well, what will happen if? What will happen if we begin to implement those goals? What would happen if we begin to implement in different ways? Maybe we have a moderate implementation, maybe a robust implementation. What would happen? None of you will buy a car without test driving it, correct? You might choose a model, but then you go and test drive it. Well, what these scenarios are about is test driving the future And how great is that? I mean, it's a great opportunity, not only to say, I want that, but I say, well, if I do that, this is what happens. And understand the relationship between what we want and what actually happens. So, what would happen if, and based on the goals that we set, as we said, and here is the car dealership I was referring to. We're going to test drive, and there's a whole car motif. Now, I don't know if I was inspired by the amount of driving that we do in this region, but I said, maybe that's a metaphor that we want to use. So let's test drive in the future together. How do we build the scenarios? Right. First of all, there were the ideas that you gave us. So we compiled them, we got the goals, and there was a lot of stuff in there. We got 1,000 ideas, 29 different themes. And the theme is things that were recurring, more things that we heard about. So we used that side, and then we used this other side, which is observation, to photography, to driving around the region, but also to gathering information. And this information is all available on the website. What is it that you told us you wanted? First of all, you wanted to protect your natural resources. That was by far the most important thing in the ways that you told us, which is expected in the original ideas. But then you said, our economy is not working. We need to diversify, we need to brand our region and market ourselves as a region, and we want to create jobs that our people can qualify for. So we need to train them for the jobs that are available. We need to understand what are going to be the jobs that are going to be available in the future. And in doing so, hopefully we can keep some of young people here so that they don't go away. And there is a direct correlation between young people leaving and the fact that they cannot find a job that can support a family. It's great until they're young. There's a lot of service type of jobs, but once you begin to think family, that doesn't work. You told us we should manage future growth and retain the quality of life that you treasure. Now that is a very controversial statement. And I have read every single one of the ideas that you gave us. More than once, believe me. I had to sort them all out. And I wish that there was a computer program that could do that. But, like for example, something that we heard the word climate and put it directly to the environment, right? Well, what if the sentence says we want to change the climate of education? There is no such a way. We have to do management. So we looked at that. So there were 3 sets of people, 3 sets of ideas. One said, we don't want any regulations at all. We had to talk about it. Another group of people said, well, we should have mild regulation. That's perfectly fine. We should figure out what is the right. And some people said, no, we need to have really strong regulations so that we can accomplish what we want. So this is a very key point, and a point that had many points of view. And so that's something that we need to think about. And I want to hear from you again, whether we are off track or on track. Then you wanted to connect the region internally and externally with the urbanized area around you and provide mobility choices. That is transportation, public transportation maybe is more bike trails, there's a lot of talk about active transportation. And then you said improve infrastructure, which again, easy said, but broadband has been a major issue, particularly in this country, we heard so much about broadband. Sewer is another issue, water is another issue. Those are costly things. And all of these things are connected to one another. And that's one of the things that we'll try to stress as we move forward. Some of our observations are going to be very obvious to you. First of all, you have 3,000 square miles in this region, a little more, huge. And half of that, 46% of that, is land that are managed by the federal government, managed by the state government, that is also something controversial, particularly in Graham County. I heard many people say, well, you know, that affects our tax revenues, that there is so much land in public ownership. Or people said, well, you know, it's so great, however, big however, how come we cannot do community harvesting of some of the wood? You know, how come we cannot do some of the stuff that could turn into economic development, economic opportunities? So I'm not trying to tell you just one picture. I'm trying to tell you what I heard and several of the sides that I heard. You also have a lot of slopes, which is the beauty of your land. I've been counting in this part of the world that don't work in China, in Knoxville, and Seville County, and all over the place, in this part of Tennessee and North Carolina. And one of the most beautiful things, driving, because you have to drive for this, is when it's sunset and you see 7, 8, 9 ridges, one after another. It is an extraordinary experience. Well, those slopes make the ridges. And 40% of the entire area of this region is of a slope that is equal to or bigger than 40%, which is kind of difficult to build on. And you can see here, the green area are the areas where there's very minor slopes. And what happens in those areas? You have your major towns. Why? Because they're flat. Great. However, and here is how you see a different view of that, of how these little dots indicates, and there is a beautiful map over there that shows actually every single building that exists in this region. But you can see how all the buildings are in the valleys. Well, nice, however, that's also where the agricultural land is. The best agricultural land is not going to be as low as 40%. Although some Asian cultures have done that by terracing entire mountains, but it's not going to happen here. And so you have a conflict between what's the best place to develop and what is the best place to grow vegetables and have an economy based on agriculture. These are all thoughts. These are questions. I love the sequence. Now, pay attention to the little white dots. So here is 1976. This was done by the University of North Carolina in Charleston. Excuse me, in Charlotte. Charlotte, thank you. And you will see that, look at the little white dot. This was in 1976. Again, every building was mapped. So then you are now in 1985. Do you see the difference? Then you're now in 1995. See, that's how you were growing. Where you were growing, where you should grow. Where it's flat, next to the communities, and along the corridor. So you can see all the major corridors get those little white dots. And this is now 2010. And then they did something else. They modeled a very complicated equation. They modeled what happened in 2020. See how much more? And in 2030. Well, there goes, if you look at this, you say, well, there goes our farmland. In fairness, their model is a little more aggressive than ours, than what you will see that we talked about. But the reality is that there are these points of conflict. And these points of conflict are very, very important when we talk about the future of this region. This one is quite extraordinary. This is traffic counts in all of your major roads, right? Traffic counts. Look at the number for the year 1999, first row. Look at the number for the year 2010 and 2011. We have counts today which are equal or lower than what you had in 1999. Isn't that surprising? What do we do with this information? Well, it's a bunch of things. First, there was a big economic crisis. So that has depressed the amount of travel that takes place. But there's another phenomenon, which is a national phenomenon. It's happening everywhere in the country. is that people are looking at different ways to move around. And there are implications to this. Now you might say, no, in our region we cannot do that. You have every single choice in the world. That's why we need to hear from you. But this is a national trend that is happening. And we think is a very healthy trend. Right? Did you read it? Funny, huh? But it's true. Shall I read it for you? This one runs on fat and saves you money. This one runs on money and makes you fat. And there is a study that is taking place right now in this region about the importance, the health implications of these choices. And I'm not just, oh, you know, we like to walk. I love to walk. I walk. I'm committed to walk 5 miles a day. And I've been doing it, and it's terrific. But it's more than that. There's really there are all kinds of implications and counter-intentions. This is something very simple. It shows the service, jobs, and it serves the good producing, the manufacturing type of jobs. And this is going to trend. Manufacturing is going down, and services are going up. Some of the services are for the tourist industry, but some of them are for medical facilities, which are very important in this region, and also for university, of which you have a great deal. So then this raises a bunch of questions. The questions are, how can the region accommodate desirable growth while maintaining and enhancing the quality which makes it nice in the first place? How desirable is for the region to continue is historically our competitor in the future? Remember those dots, those white dots? The choice is yours, but hopefully we can talk together and make informed decisions about this. How do we take into account this changing trends, the fact that people, particularly actually what we call the millennial generation, the children of the baby boomers, they don't drive it. They don't want to drive. I know kids in suburban situation in their 30s that don't have a driving license. Now that's unheard of, right? It used to be that you couldn't wait to get 15 or 17, whatever the time was that you could run and go to your driving license. So how do we take that into account? And what should the priority be so that we can actually align emergency training opportunities and workforce preparedness? I want to say something, because the modeling that we're going to get more into right now is a lot about land use and transportation and all the stuff that I've been talking about. Your goals are bigger than that. Your goals include culture, your goals include quality of life issue, include education and so on. The fact that we're not talking about them tonight doesn't mean that we drop them. This is just one side of how we're going to build a vision. So, you know, if you're passionate about education, don't feel bad. It's still on. That switch is still on. Okay. So we have these three what ifs. So the first one is stay the course. We will not do any of the things that you have put down as part of your vision. So what would happen if we continue what we have been doing as a region for the past 20 years? Many of you said, we don't have anything to do with this. We don't think that you should be planning. Mike mentioned that. Well, that's a choice. The other choice is targeted management and investment. What would happen if, working together as a region, we implement the goals of the vision with moderate growth management strategies, specific investment in infrastructure, and incentive to attract the right business to the region? I call this the acupuncture. We don't do massive intervention. But, you know, many cultures believe that that's the way to go. And then robust management. What if we really got into it? What if we really marketed that region in the way we should market it and look at the investment, look at the incentive, attracting the right business, doing the right educational choices, and so on and so forth. And by the way, many ideas that you gave us set up with the universities that we have. It is a major asset that this region has. All right, so 3 scenarios. We are going to hear what all of you have to say in the 7 panelists, and we're going to come up with a preferred scenario. Now, we're not asking you or anybody to say, oh, I like scenario A, or I like scenario B, or I like scenario C. We will have a series of questions. We'll have a survey at the end after we finish. And those are questions all about trade-offs. So you will see that essentially, in all the times that I'm doing this, the preferred scenario is always a hybrid. It's a combination of different parts, depending on what you like. So it's like Dell computers. You remember when Dell made this great thing? They said, you know, we can make the computer as you want it, with the memory that you want, the hard drive that you want, the keyboard that you want. Call us, it'll be done to you, back to you in 24 hours. That's what's going to happen here. We're going to take all these little pieces and put them together. So that, and this is the critical part. I know that this is a lot of process. You're saying, why don't we just do it, right? Why are we still talking about this? Because you still don't know what you want to be when you grow up. And until we figure it out, we cannot say, you need to have these policies, you need to have this recommendation, and we need to figure out how you're going to implement this regional vision. I'm talking about region. Oh, there is a handout which I hope you feel, which explains why we need the regional vision. That is, I couldn't even start explaining it in such a beautiful way. But the basic thing is that in 2013, 2014, regions are the competitive engines in the world. We're competing through regions. We don't compete with little communities. It's the region that has that power. It's through the region that we can get the infrastructure funding, that we need to do certain things. Let me give you an anecdote. I did years ago a 15 counties vision for Birmingham, Alabama. That was the part around Birmingham. And one of the things that happened is there had been this really serious competition about getting a plan for Mercedes-Benz. Right? And Mercedes-Benz ultimately chose Tuscaloosa, which is an hour away from Birmingham and about 4.5 hours to the Gulf. Do you know why they choose Tuscaloosa? I spoke to the people who made the decision. They said we choose Tuscaloosa because it's close to the ocean. That's a regional asset. Tuscaloosa had no ocean nearby, but acting as a region, they were able to be competitive and get Mercedes-Benz. This is, in case you don't recognize it, this is Graham County. And Graham County is your perspective from the point of view of Graham County is critical. So, you know, your input is going to come from your perspective. So we need to see that in the perspective of the region as a whole. Now, the other thing I want to say is the region that you're going to think about when you think about the region 25 years from now is different from today. Think about 25 years ago. Look at her. She lives in the neighborhood, right? Just on the other side of the mountain. Look at the hairdo. I wish I could do that. So we cannot just assume that the future is going to be just what we know. In fact, there is this expression of Yogi Berra, which I always like. He said, you know, the future ain't the way it used to be. Does it make sense? Well, so don't think about, oh my goodness, I can get the stoplight to work in my neighborhood. That's the future. No, that's not the future. You want to think about much bigger than that. Also, there is another thing that many of you were concerned about. You have a beautiful land, and you said, well, when I do these things, I'm going to lose this. Are we gonna lose the beauty that is so important in this region? Absolutely not. You have 3,000 square miles of region. The land that was developed, it's only 5%, 5.6%. Even if you put 15% more population and jobs on top of that, it's not that big. You will keep this. Don't think that you're gonna lose this. How you put those extra 15% is the critical question. All right, so I like this car things. Let's get under the hood and see how we did this. First of all, we looked at population growth. That's your base. And the state told us there's a state population growth estimate that comes every couple of years, that from now to 35, in the cumulative 25 years, or 20 years or so, the region will grow 15%. That's a very conservative number, less than 1% a year. So it's not like all of a sudden we have crowds moving in. So we just want to stay conservative with this. So there'll be 29,000 more people, 11,000 new homes, and on top of that, probably about 4,500 of the second homes. We applied the same 50%. You currently have 30,000 second homes spread out through the region. That's a lot. And then we said, we're not going to play God, we're not going to play favors. Every county gets the same amount for the purpose of doing the scenarios. And so we will deal with the same thing. And the job baseline, when you increase, there is a ratio of 4 jobs for every 10 people, for every 10 people that come. So if we have the 15% job, population growth, it will have a baseline of 12,000 jobs, new jobs, expected for the region. You have something that I will ask you before we begin to have our conversation, and is this document that says, is this document that says scenarios at a glance? And I'm just going to go a little faster with this because we don't really need to because we can read it through. But what we will do, we did 3 basic critical decisions. As far as the population, we got this 15% more people coming. Where do they go? In the scenario number 1, which is, what if we did nothing and we just keep the current trends going? The majority of the population will keep going where they're going now, all over the place. There's nothing to stop them, and that's what will happen. In scenario B, there'll be enough investment, incentive, and so on, that a percentage of the future population actually will begin to go closer to existing population centers. There's all kinds of reasons why that happens. The most important one is that it makes it easier for infrastructure, because infrastructure is already close to those places. So you don't need to make additional investment for infrastructure. But also that you can begin to have more housing choices. There are a lot of questions about the housing, the availability, affordability of housing, particularly in Graham County. And so the first one, most of the population, new population goes in the region, spread out. Second one begins to come closer to the population center. This one gets really intensive in terms of going closer to the population centers. You will see that there are consequences to each one of these choices, and then we will have a discussion about that. So that you don't think that I'm coming with these things out of my hat, and Jim Fox is here. Jim essentially looked at every terrain, and looked at areas that were better suited for conservation, looked at areas that were better suited for agriculture, looked at areas that the darkest are the most suited, that are better suited for development, for jobs, housing, and infrastructure. And he painstakingly placed initial counties that allocate a number of population so that we could measure the impact. And we'll see how that turned out. All right, so that was the first choice. The second big choice was about mobility. We said, okay, so how are we going to differentiate the different scenarios? Well, in the first scenarios, essentially, again, you're not doing nothing, you don't do anything that is new. So the investment in transportation infrastructure really focus on fixing what's there. And many of you said that was important. So I'm not dismissing that point. That's a very important point. So everybody said, let's put our money into fixing what we're there. Scenario B instead says, well, let's put our investments on implementing connection to the greater region, within the region and outside of the region. All right? And scenario C, the investments are shared. We said, okay, what if we begin to create a scenario where things like mobility options, public transportation, bikes, the stuff that, the pedestrian and the bike, what if we invest in some of that? What would happen? How would that affect the way, how much time we spend in cars or how much money we spend for transportation? And the third critical assumption was, how do we address economic development? So in scenario A, we continue doing what we're doing. Each county has an economic development entity, and they market the county. There's very little, there's some amount of regional marketing. The second one begins to follow your advice, your goal. Your goal was coordinate marketing, coordinate economic development. The third one is doing even more of that. This is an interesting thing. More jobs are linked to smaller entrepreneurial thought. Why is that? Again, there's a lot of research that has been done with that. But there are two things that are happening right now. We call it the convergence. There's the baby boomers, like myself. My children have their own children, so they are in my house. And the baby boomers don't want to spend their Saturday cutting the grass. They want a more community. So they're looking for places that are more like town centers. And there's the second curve, which is the children of the baby boomers, the first-time home buyers. And they're looking at the suburban thing. They came out from that. They don't want to go back. They're looking for a place that is cool, right? Where what's cool for them is, so economically, if we want to attract young people, we have to give them what they want. We have to give them the places, the housing choices, and the opportunity to go where they want. All right, so again, here is the model, a photograph of what you have. We're going to get into discussion. I want you to get more details. You can mark it, things that you like, things that you don't. All right, now we get into the indicators. Indicators are like the sticker that you get when you go buy a car. And it tells you, the environmental impact, the EPA, miles, all those things. How fast it brakes, how fast it accelerates. So we have a series of indicators. And again, I will not spend a lot of time because you can look at that yourself. And you have a header that says indicator to measure progress toward our goals. I will just cover a few of them. All right. So you said nature, the beautiful land that we have is very important to us. What affects that? Well, development affects it. How much does development affect that? Well, we get 25, in scenario A, if you accommodate the population that it's about, you get 25 square miles of forest land that gets covered. So 25 square miles, which is a lot. The whole town of Sylvan fits, the whole outline of this town of Sylvan fits in 3.5 square miles, just to give you a proportion. Scenario B, only 18 square miles get converted. Scenario C, 10 square miles of forest land gets converted. Is that important to you? It's your choice, right? So you're going to look at this and tell us. Now, again, I've been asked to repeat this at least twice, so I will say it again. It's not so much, if you look at the total land of this region. 5% here, 10% there, it's not that much. However, the implication on how we do that for economic development, for infrastructure investment, for attracting young people, all the stuff that we're talking about, becomes fundamental and they are connected to this kind of choices. All right. We want to attract, retain young people. Well, which one of the scenarios performs better? In scenario where the population continues to age, we are, the average age in this region is 8 years older than the state of North Carolina. This is an aging region. We want young people. If we do nothing about it, that's not good. If we begin to do the diversification of the economy, we can begin to attract some of the younger people. It's like a spiral. The more you attract young people, more young people will come to this region. Because you have this fantastic asset that you can just get out of work, get into a short, and hike a mountain. What other place has that? Right? But you're not really taking full advantage of that. Downtown vitality. If people, how many people live within 1 mile of your town centers? Well, in scenario A, which is what we have now, is 3,000 new residents. If you allocate them, 3,000 new residents will go somewhere in areas that are redeveloped and infill. In scenario B, again, based on these calculations, on the land where they go, 16,000 new residents will go near towns. And in scenario C, 24,000 new residents will go near town. One of your goals was to create active, vibrant downtowns. Well, that's how you do that. Cost for gas money. This is an interesting thing. So we looked at commuting patterns because the amount of commuting that goes on in this region is phenomenal. I don't have the numbers. Well, actually I have them because I wrote them as Jim was talking about it. So there's 1,000 in Graham County. There's 1,084 of the people that are working age and have a job that are employed in Graham County or live outside, but they come into the county. There is 1,859 that live in the county but work outside. And there's only 881 who actually are employed and live in Graham County. So you have an incredible amount of movement around. So what happens if you begin to bring the working place next to where people live? I mean, that's an option in one of the scenarios, right? So in scenario A, this community for the region will cost $1,980 per year of additional cost with the year. In scenario B, that cost goes down to $1,630 a year, and in scenario C, it will go down to $1,480. So there's about $700 saving just based on limiting and reducing the amount of community. And broadband, you don't have broadband because it's too spread out, and it's expensive to get broadband to everybody. So in scenario A, it's going to be very difficult to get broadband. Scenario B is going to be a little easier because some compactness is happening. In scenario C, significantly more people will have access to SPV. So that's just a beginning, right? What I would like to do now is, first of all, to consolidate some tables. So please, the three of you, could you move? Oh, it's easier if you move to that table. I'm sorry. So there's at least 4. We have 4 here. Move to that table so that the recycle is an actual dialogue. Mike, why don't you join this thing? Okay? So then we have tables that are more or less uniform in size. And here's what I want you to do. Many of you said the last meeting was too long. be out of this soon. The point is, what I want you to do is two things. First, just spend 10 minutes. Look at the material I gave you. What did you hear? What's important to you? Convince your, sell it. Sell your point of view to the people in your team. Right? Let's do that. What happens if you do that is that you get into the problem. You get into what's going on. We also, since we will lose some of it, even though I will record when you start talking, we'll have forms that I really would like you to fill out as you consolidate your thoughts about this. And Monica is hands. So let's spend about 10 minutes talking about what you heard. And then I will come around and try to get as many points of view as possible. And then the last thing that you have to do is and the last thing that we will do, I would like you to fill out the questionnaire. So let's go.
The importance of protecting what we've got and finding a shared vision amongst all of the stakeholders so that consensus can be achieved and that people all feel like we're on the same page, going in the same direction.
Great. Any different points of view? Understand?
Well, not overtaxing your infrastructure.
Okay.
You've got a good infrastructure now, but you need to be, you don't need to sprint to get to your max out, and you don't have nowhere else to go, like we were right over here. And I mean, we're just at 40% now of a new plan, and really don't even have to run one tank. And we've got room to build another one, and probably to do two more if we had to. And that's where you need to, everybody work together as a team to come together and go step by step instead of, you got to walk before you run.
Would you call that planning?
Planning.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Right.
How about you? Any thoughts about the scenarios and what works, what doesn't, what would you like, what you didn't like?
No, I completely agree. We had a discussion around, don't overbuild beyond your infrastructure while you're always planning your infrastructure way ahead of time. And there was a healthy discussion on land use and land development.
Good. I'll come back. Let's see at this table. Anything that was said on the table that you agree with? Zoning, infrastructure, transportation.
We started in infrastructure, but we moved to economy and then we moved to people.
Okay.
And demographic.
Can you give us an idea how the trip went?
Y'all speak up.
Well, we said infrastructure, you've got to have a good foundation. Everything that the foundation, you kind of have to, but you got to be careful not to operate under the, if they build it, they will come, because if they don't come, then you're in trouble. So we said a good marketing plan to support that infrastructure build out is important, and that's how we got into demographics and who you want to do.
How about the zoning?
We didn't use the Z word at this table because we know better.
Okay. what word did you use?
We
Plan development.
Plan development. Okay, so that's acceptable. Mike, what did you think?
I'm done.
Okay.
That's one of these times I need to be quiet.
No quoting. Okay. How about this table? What were your thoughts? Speak up, because everybody has to hear. We have no mic.
Okay, let me swallow.
Brandon?
My
Yeah.
marriage. Well, I was looking at the three different scenarios that you had here. And definitely not the first one, because that can keep us right where we are, little poverty, unemployment, and so forth. Personally, I would adopt the most aggressive one, where we put in a huge investment today in infrastructure, growing within our infrastructure. Do you hear that, Steve? We've got plenty of good infrastructure, let's live within it. And driving less for our goods and services, building our houses within that infrastructure where people can walk to the grocery store and so forth, and doing things to attract a younger population. We have some young people. We have a young new manager at Walgreens. He loves it here. He was living in Nashville, which is a great little city, but he likes it here better. And he says all of his young friends like it here. So, and of course, we want to preserve our natural resources. But to do nothing, I ought not to do that. We need to be more aggressive in our planning.
Doug, how about you? You wrote a lot of notes.
Just my kind of outsider observation, but kind of working across the state, kind of regardless of the scenario, if the state's transportation investment is only aligned for scenario A, which there's plenty of communities that have tried scenario B and C, but can't get transportation infrastructure prioritized over their own. So if such a big chunk of infrastructure investment is really only prioritized for scenario A, we'll never achieve the things we aspire to in B and C, even if we adopt those policies. So that was the main one. And then towns and counties should be standard bearers for this investment. They are investing in facilities, and they can be the anchor tenants for small towns instead of moving all their facilities to external areas.
And so they should choose.
It's basically saying our public agencies should
Right.
be the standard bearers for this,
Right.
and all types of their
Right.
investments is kind of the theme of that.
Post office, for example, that kind of thing. Is that the same kind of discussion that you were having when it was about infrastructure, about investment?
Ours was really different about people. And I think honestly what it comes down to is that, and I've realized this in my own life, that I could live somewhere else and make a whole lot more money. But I choose to live here. I choose to live in a smaller house. I have a smaller salary, but I'm happy. I'm in the great outdoors. I like the people that I'm around. It's a sacrifice that I'm willing to make to live here. And if we don't get a marketing plan together to find like-minded people, you're not going to have population growth. So either you sacrifice and higher groceries, higher gas money, things aren't close by, you know, medical's not close by, but you like it here. And you like who you're around.
Tabitha, would you change the word sacrifice with the word trade-off? I mean,
It is a
isn't this
trade-off.
about trade-offs?
But I don't think everyone is under the same circumstances where they choose to live here. And I think we do have a population of people who
Or stuck?
are stuck and they're not going to live anywhere else. And, you know, that because of the opportunities that we have within Grant County, it doesn't mean that, you know, long-term that the people who decide to live here or choose, however you want to say it, aren't going to want to take advantage of every opportunity for a bigger house or a bigger salary. And it's our job as a community, I feel, to at least set the stage and have the opportunity for them to achieve that. I think we have enough people downstate who look at rural areas and say they choose to live there. Let's focus the investments on more populated areas where the people are.
So you're wanting to change a mindset of others thinking about us instead of the way we kind of thought about ourselves?
Well, I think that it's important for us to develop, to set the stage, to set the table, to where the opportunity for someone if they want to live in the great outdoors, that's fine. But we also want the opportunity to be there for our school over here that's got the highest graduation rate in the state. For those people to have a real opportunity to come back here, live here, and work here, raise a family.
And have a nice home, a decent automobile, and have what they need.
That's right.
Yes, I agree with you.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that aspiration, but what I think I'm trying to say is when you really look at what's going on around you and probably what can happen over the next 10 years, you have to find like-minded people, like your neighbors, like the people that are around you.
Right.
Because it is a little bit of a sacrifice not to live close to a hospital or near shopping, but like, I don't like shopping, so that's really not a sacrifice for me. And
Right.
there's other ladies like me that don't really enjoy that. There's
You
other
know,
aspects of
I
living
agree.
here.
You know, and that's why within, the towns and the county and our economic development partners in my office, we're developing. We recognize there's not healthcare here. That's a leg of that table that we're working our tail off to put in place, because if Graham County's gonna grow, it has
Right,
to be.
right. And we've already come strides
That's
in that
right.
area.
And it's moving. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'd like to think of this again on the regional. One of the things that's been pointed out here is that you I don't want to say you've been dealt a hand, but we have certain natural resources. We have the geography, we have everything involved here, and we want to maintain that, as you've already mentioned. That's very important to us. But at the same token, and I mentioned to Tim, if somebody was going to propose building a Volkswagen plant in Macon County, or building one in Swain County, or building one in any other county in our region, would we support it? I say yes. And then it comes to the very point of it is, we already have people that are gone for 4 months at a time. I have a nephew that does that. And we talk about the additional dollars for transportation on top of this, then I think it'd be worthwhile to start looking about where are the development areas in our region. And whether we like it or not, Graham County's not going to get the Volkswagen plant. First of all, we don't have anywhere to put it. But this county does. Well, the people have to make a living, okay? And I saw some great demographics that were done, over county lines, over state lines, about where people, like at the Stanley plant, where do they live? Where do they come from to go to work? And the thing of it is, it comes down to the issue of connection, connectivity to the hospitals, connectivity to the arts, connectivity to this, that. Not that you can't do anything locally, but we need to put our marbles in one place to where we can say, well, yeah, we need to support this, and there needs to be a vehicle to do it. Because one thing, and these guys are probably tired of hearing me, but the issue is that we're going to have to work it out together, because Graham County can't root hard enough to get what it needs. And that's just the long and the short of it. It's not defeatist, but the issue is we need to have a plan together to where we can go and support this, to help this, and make sure that we have the connectivity involved in that. And that's infrastructure. And I want to see the town of Fontana to grow and to thrive, and that people would have a place to live. And if we become like a neighborhood for a community of second homes, all well and good, manage it. And then those that want to live here, you make that decision. But I believe people should be able to live more. I know that there are people, if they had adequate transportation and connectivity to get from point A to point B for work, jobs, telecommuting, that they'd live here. They would live here. So that's kind of a pipe dream, but I believe that's the way we need to look at it. Is that way we're going to be, how do you say this? We're going to be the playground.
We're going to be what?
The playgrounds.
Yeah.
We're the playground.
We'll be the playground. Let's just go ahead and have it be in the playground, and then let someone else be this, someone else to be that. And yeah, I know there's certain things you have to have. Go work toward those infrastructures locally, but let's focus on being the playground. Let's focus on what we've been given to handle, to work with. So that's how I see it.
Was there something that you thought was completely off the chart from either of the scenarios that somehow was a ride? Was there something that we need to keep in mind as we move forward? What has been given to you is this blue form and is a survey. And it's all about the same issue that we've been talking about, but they're really in the form of trade-offs. And we need you to make those choices. And with the exception of one question, you should answer one choice per question. One question has 4 of them, and it's displayed in the form.
Why is it an either or?
Same reason you got 3
It's like
blue
this
buttons.
career test you used to have to take.
Well, that's what trade-offs are. You protect the environment, and in order to do that, you have to do something else.
Yeah, but why could you not manage and regulate future growth and prioritize property owners' rights at the same time?
That is, I thought of that, and if you, that's a very important thing. If you don't agree with the question, just leave it blank.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I could do that.
But you know, trade-offs are, they tend to be something that you have to make choices of. Right. All kinds of choices. And what's in there really reflects what you've been telling us in all kinds of ways. Just leave all the green forms and the blue forms on the table. But I wanted to hear if anybody saw in those scenarios anything that it just didn't sound right.
Well, we were talking about how in any of these scenarios,
Right.
that anyone thought that we were going to get any information back.
What?
On this first one, for being converted,
Right.
that there would even be an option to do that. Are you talking about like US Forest Service?
No, it's
Just Forest? Okay.
Any other thing that was somehow was like, didn't sound right?
I was gonna say traffic counts, and I think I told our table this.
Oh, the traffic count.
Traffic counts, and I know it's data, but, I grew up here 20 years ago, there wasn't near as much traffic. You know, we used to travel to Tennessee on 129 and probably wouldn't see a vehicle.
So your experience is different from the their.
Very much so. And I mean, it's, of course, you know, bicycling and things like that, but, you know, if I bicycle every day at work,
I will ask
that takes a lot
tomorrow.
of work.
Tomorrow we're having a meeting about transportation.
Oh, yeah, I'll be here.
And we can help you with it. You know, it's important. Any other thing? Yeah.
One thing I thought was missing in terms of the overall infrastructure piece is recognizing under the 3 scenarios, if we have 1,000 people in a community today and we want to accommodate 200 additional people outside of that, that extending that water, sewer, and transportation infrastructure to those 200 is subsidized by the 1,000 that are there and diverts resources to those 200 without reinvestment in those communities. So some way,
But I can answer that real quick, like, and I'm the biggest one in here. I'll go ahead and say the Z word, zoning. The town of Robertsville basically has somewhat zoning, because in order to connect to our new sewer plant, you have to be satellite annexed into the city limits. It's there. There's not that, it can't be changed. But, I mean, you know, a lot of people don't like to hear it, I know. I've had the pleasure of working in 22 different states. I've gone for right at 22 years and worked in 22 states, about 50 in welding. I've worked in small places and I've worked in big places. But I never did find no place like Graham County. And I never did find no people like Graham County. Whenever they do get down, they might bicker amongst themselves, but whenever somebody else comes in, bearing down on them, they will fight together. No.
So, Steve, do you charge a fee then to do that annexation to help offset the capital costs that?
Yeah, because that is in the out of city limit. Anybody out of the city limits has got a higher water and sewer rate. Like the people like in the inside the city limits, I think they pay 100% water at a certain rate, and 85% of the water rate is equal to the sewer. And then your tap fees is like a 300 versus a 600 for in town and out of town. All the way up to 6 inch, it might be 1,200 to 1,800.
So the rates are offset to account for those
Offset.
inefficiencies.
On account of the people inside the city limits pay city and county taxes. I mean, I've got a father that lives 2 miles out of town Robbinsville. He's got more property inside the city limits. He pays more town taxes than he pays county taxes. But he can't vote in the city election because he don't live in the city limits.
We need to change that.
Any other comments? I know that Woody wanted to talk to you about where we're gonna go from here with the charrette, because this is just one of the many meetings that are going to take place this week. So Woody, why don't you give them? And thank you very much for your input. Please fill out the blue forms. Tell us anything that you think that you didn't want to say publicly on the green form, and leave everything on the table. The green forms and the blue forms. And thanks again, Woody.
Great, so Monica's passing out these flyers for us. This is the first of 3 public meetings here this week. We'd love for you to come back. This is more about the regional picture, but we're gonna get into a lot more specifics about Graham County. We'd love to hear your thoughts. So here at 3:30 on Wednesday, I need to get the exact time, I did cheat. 4. Here at 4 o'clock on Wednesday, we'll have an open house, talk about some ideas about the future of Graham County. And then we'll be back again on Friday at noon with some ideas that are a little farther along. There's also a lot of focus groups and other smaller discussions going on during the week. So if you can't come to one of those, or if you just want to come share your thoughts on a more specific topic, let me know. Our team will be here all week, so literally anytime between 8 and 5, you can drop in and see what's going on and share your thoughts. So I'd love to see you all later this week. Thank you.
Great, thank you all.